Hello, I'm Kate, and I'm the founder of Push. This is Bear, the Cavapoo. I was hoping to be slightly more professional for this and sat upstairs in my office, but frankly, I am freezing. So I'm sat down here with herbal teas aplenty and wearing about 3 different jumpers. It's not quite the boss bitch look I was going for. But anyway, without further ado, I would love to introduce you to the incredible Kirsty. Now, I've got a couple of choices about how I introduce Kirsty. Of course, what I could do is I could tell you that having founded her first company at 26, which is a marketing agency with global clients like Virgin Atlantic and IBM, Kirsty then scaled it unbelievably within 3 years. And believe you me, having run a business, that is incredible. To a team of over 50 completely independent remote workers, and completely kind of shifted how businesses actually ran and corporate landscape. But that clearly was not enough for our Kirsty, and basically decided that actually she really wanted to go for her passion instead, which I think is an incredible thing to do. And her passion was all around human leadership, and she retrained as a coach, and now basically steps into delivering that training to companies and individuals, give them a really competitive edge when it comes to all things confidence and communication. But I could tell you all that. But actually, what I do want to tell you instead is my real introduction to Kirsty. So I actually met Kirsty back in 2018 at a conference we were both at in Slovenia. And in a very sad way, and not at all stalky, I basically decided I really wanted Kirsty to be my friend. And really hope that would come and work with me as well, which of course she has done. And the reason being is because I just think she's one of those incredibly rare people that manages to bring together being kind, being wise, and totally fucking hilarious. And if she were to be a spirit animal, therefore for me she would be a unicorn. And I think therefore there is no one better in the world to be talking to us and sharing with us exactly how to feel fucking awesome even in a lockdown. So on that note, Kirsty, I'm now going to fade to darkness and you are going to take over. Have a good webinar.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction, Kate. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you for being here. I'm sure many of you have been wrangling homeschooling and getting the kids in bed and figuring out what's for dinner. So I acknowledge even just trusting me with your time in these things is an ask. So thank you. Thank you for being here. So what we're going to focus on today is how to feel fucking awesome even in a lockdown. But before we move into that, put yes in the chat if everyone can access the chat. What I'm going to do is we're just going to be in the chat a little bit for a couple of reasons. It helps us feel witnessed and seen and what we're collectively experiencing. It makes it more enjoyable for me as a facilitator to see you all engaging in the chat, and it also helps me steer what I'm going to share with you to make sure that the next 40, 50 or so minutes is really, really, really valuable for you, because our time is incredibly precious. Hello, everybody. Okay, so what I want to do is first just put yes in the chat if the notion of feeling fucking awesome right now feels like a big, unrealistic ask. Put yes in the chat if that's you. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now put yes in the chat if you resonate with or experiencing feeling any of the following statements. I am exhausted. I am overwhelmed. I am spinning so many plates. I am frustrated. I am bored. I feel demotivated. And oh God, yes, from Kat. I feel a bit bloody miserable. I feel miserable. Yes. And most of all, give me a massive yes if feeling all of these things is making you feel guilty. Is somehow making you feel as though you're failing, you're not doing it right, you're not doing a good enough job, you're letting your employer down, your business down, the kids down, the team down, whatever it is. So the reason, thank you everyone for sharing all of those yeses. Thank you, thank you. The reason I always like to start from that perspective is because what we're going to move on to now is motivation techniques. I'm going to make it really practical because that's what we need. That is what we need. But the first thing that I have to start from that point Because in order for us to let go of something, we first have to hold it. So I just want to really honor and acknowledge everything that we're holding, everything that we're experiencing. So I'm just going to do one more exercise on this before we move into the motivation stuff. Put in the chat for me, what things feel heavy for you right now? Share that in the chat for me. What things are feeling heavy for you right now? And take a moment to share that with everybody else, share that with each other. Take a moment to acknowledge the future. Thank you. Work commitments. Thank you. Workload. Homeschooling 3 kids and trying to run a business. My mental health. Groundhog Day. Thank you. Workload. Lockdown, extra pounds. Things feel a bit pointless. Yes. Relationships, everything. Boredom, no traveling, living with my parents again, a double journey, mental health, wanting change, loneliness, isolated in my own life, feeling lost, a lack of hope for the future. Thank you, everybody, for sharing those things. Bored of loved ones, feeling distant from friends. The world feels much smaller. Yes, this loneliness, this boredom, this isolation, this heaviness, this juggling kids and family and work. One thing that life will teach us that I think we kind of know is this adversity, these feelings, they don't discriminate. And the first thing I want to say is, so many of you put yes in the chat if this is you, will say, oh, other people have got it so much worse than me. Other people have got it so much worse than me. And so we often, yes, thank you. We often don't even allow ourselves this space, this time, this moment to acknowledge everything we're experiencing and to acknowledge all that we're holding. So that's where we need to start, with a bucket load of self-compassion, because if we're going to feel good, we have to first see and feel where we are now. Acknowledge all of these feelings, these very real, these very visceral, these core feelings that we're feeling. So I just want to start by taking a moment, and I just want you to, thank yourself for being here. Thank yourself for showing up for yourself against all the odds. Thank you for choosing to click on this webinar, to learn some stuff, to show up for yourself, to be here, to develop and learn and try against all of the odds, everything that you've just shared, to try and take a moment to invest in yourself. So thank you. You're in the minority of people who are doing that. So pluck yes, well done. That's where we're going to start. Okay, cool. So now what we're going to do now is we're going to move into some motivation techniques. I'm going to share my screen. And the thing for me is I want to make this so practical. So I'm going to go through quite a few different things. There we are. Some of them will resonate with you. Some of them perhaps not. We're all super different. You only really need to take away 1 or 2. And for me, my role here is just tiny tweaks. And again, to reiterate, in order to let go of something, we first have to hold it. Our negative emotions, they come out sideways. So we have to see them. Another thing is we can't force or will positive emotions. We know this. We wake up in those days and we're like, oh, I'm just not feeling it today. I'm just not feeling it. I don't feel good. And then I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can see you in the chat again. We can't force or will these positive emotions. And again, put yes in the chat for me if sometimes you wake up and you feel demotivated, you feel overwhelmed, and then our next thought, our next response is to panic. Is to panic and go, but I've got so much to do. I feel not good enough. Thank you. We feel guilty for these things. You know, the 56 people on the webinar just shared that we're all experiencing the same things. I speak to, on average, about 400 or 500 people a week. And we are all experiencing these things. So sometimes when we feel these things, our next things can be go, oh no. And we try to force ourselves to feel good. We try to force ourselves to feel motivated. We try to go, right, okay, I've got so much to do though, come on. And we try and force and will ourselves to feel better. It's a very admirable pursuit, an incredibly admirable pursuit. But today I'm going to share with you a slightly different approach, perhaps a more sustainable and kind and compassionate approach. And this is based on this research. So there's a professor and she works in the space of happiness And I've taken her theory on happiness and I've just applied it to like motivation, feeling uplifted. This is a direct quote from her paper, and she says, people who strive to feel good every possible moment, as if it were possible to will oneself to be happy, appear to be following a recipe for unhappiness. In stark contrast, people who pursue happiness by seeking out pleasant experiences as part of their everyday lives are happier. So this may seem tiny, but this is a huge thing within positive psychology. So often we tend to focus on the outcome. Maybe this is resonating with you. We tend to go, right, I want to feel good. I want to feel motivated. I want to feel engaged. I want to feel good at my job again. I want to feel capable and successful. And we focus on the outcome. I want to feel happy. We seek out this happiness. There's nothing wrong with that. But research has shown that those of us who don't just focus on the outcome, but focus on the actions that facilitate that outcome, it tends to be more impactful. Hopefully that resonates. So basically what I'm going to walk you through for the rest of this webinar is taking motivation, taking happiness, and then turning it into quick, practical actions. So the next time you wake up, probably tomorrow, the next time you wake up and you're like, ugh, I just can't be asked. The kids are feral. I feel not as good at my job. I'm absolutely exhausted. I'm just done with this. I'm just over this. I'm bored. The approach then is not to think about how we can suddenly will ourselves to feel happy, but instead think about actions. So what I'm going to invite everybody to do now is grab a notepad and pen. Like I said, I'm going to try and make this as possible, as practical as possible. And what we're going to create over the course of the webinar is a menu of things that you can reach, that you can go to, that you can rely on in those moments when you're not feeling good. Because you know what? A lot of us, we're not, and that's okay. By the way, at this point, I just want to say everything I share in this webinar is always, always a statement of confirmation. It is never a statement of judgment. It's always a statement of we are in this together. We are feeling this together. So, and I'm sure we know this, right? We wake up and we're like, can't be arsed. I'm not feeling it. I don't feel good. I don't feel motivated. Like we've been there. Maybe we're there now. Maybe we're struggling. Maybe we feel like we're letting our kids down. Maybe we feel as though, you know, whatever it is for you. So in those moments, these actions, they elude us. They evade us. When we're not feeling like the best versions of ourselves, those things, those strategies, those tools, those techniques we go to uplift ourselves, to energize ourselves, they're not at the forefront of our minds. So one of the things I always suggest to clients is have a menu, have a thing, so that in the moment when you're feeling these things, you can look at it and go, right, okay, I've got 3 minutes before a meeting. What can I do? What action can I take? I've got 10 minutes. What action can I take? And for me, this is really important. These are tiny tweaks. Some of these we're going to weave into when you're unloading the dishwasher, when you're making your coffee, because it's important that we make these practical, doable, and achievable. Put yes in the chat if that resonates, if that makes sense with you. And then we shall get started. Okay, perfect. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being in the chat. I really appreciate it. Yes, sounds good. Awesome. Let's do it. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to take your notepad and your pen, and I want you to answer the following 2 questions for me. Let me present again so you can see it. Now, we know this, but I want you to have it right there to hand, and I want you to answer the following 2 questions. What actions can I take that will energize me? What actions can I take that will uplift me? They may be the same, they may be different, but sometimes different words can bring about different ideas and different thoughts. And I'm going to sit in silence, stand in silence, and I'm just going to give you 5 minutes to write this out. What actions can I take that will energize me? What actions can I take that will uplift me? And as you write those out, maybe I'll just give you a few suggestions of things for me that I do. So for example, I have 3 minutes before a meeting. I'll put on my favorite song. I will stand up. I will dance. I will move my body. One of the things I like to do, this is silly, this is lame, haha, this is, I'm going to share it with you though, is people always say, you know, we need to tap into gratitude. It's kind of hard though. So often I tend to not have that time. So what I will do is, as I am emptying the dishwasher, I will be like, thank you, mug, for holding my coffee. Thank you, plate, for allowing me to eat. Like tiny tweaks, tiny tweaks. So take a few moments, just a few more minutes to think about what actions I can take that will energize me. What actions I can take that will uplift me. And try and get as many as you can. Your brain will come up with the obvious ones, but maybe you can, I don't know, stick your head out of the window and take a few deep breaths. Maybe you can make yourself a nice herbal tea. Maybe you can spend 10 minutes playing a silly game with your kids. Maybe you can call your best friend from high school who always makes you laugh. Maybe you can watch a quick clip of stand-up to make you laugh. Maybe you can listen to hype songs. Maybe you can think about previous successes you've had. Maybe you can think about the ways in which you nail it, the ways you do well. Maybe you can take 3 minutes to write out all of the things, all of the ways in which that you do a brilliant job. 1 more minute. Keep going. Try and get as many as you possibly can. Because in those moments when we need them, these things elude us. And what I'm going to invite you to do in the last minute, just because we have a hive mind as humans, it's nice to share. What I'm going to invite you to do is I'm going to invite you to pick one thing off your list and put it in the chat now. Because your little action may be somebody else's inspiration. So pick one thing from your list and type it into the chat now and share it with everybody else so that other people can perhaps be inspired. So going into the garden, going for a walk, going outside, hugs. Oh, I love that. Remember how you got here? Yes. Running, smiling. I love smiling. Exercise, sing out loud. Oh, I love that. Me and you, we are the same spirit, Karina. Dancing, uplifting, pay someone a compliment. Yes. Doing a few yoga postures, dancing to a favorite song, having a cuddle with the dog, singing, dancing tunes, taking a bath, exercise, make someone laugh, cold shower just for a second. Write a list of good things that happened that day. Exercise. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Maybe there was something that you shared that someone was like, yes, I love that idea. And again, we know this stuff. We know it already. I don't have to tell you this stuff. We know it intuitively. But the only suggestion that I'm making is have this somewhere you can see it. Have it in an Excel document. Have it written down on a piece of paper, hung on the wall. Because we forget. We get into what psychologists call, put a big yes in the chat if this resonates with you, if you know this feeling. We have something that psychologists call, sometimes we can work in what's known as primal panic. And it is that work mode, a big yes from Kat. Sometimes those words just hit us. We know exactly what that feeling is. It's when we're in our emails, we're going really quick. We've got loads to do. Our to-do list feels massive and we slip into what is known as primal panic. When we are in primal panic, also, it's when our sympathetic nervous system gets engaged, where our fight and flight response is responsible for. We forget when we are in this quick, reactive, so much to do, boss is mad, busy, busy, busy. We're not going to think in those moments, I need to take a breather. And so that's why we kind of need it outside of ourselves. So thank you, everybody, for sharing. Okay, next, let's move on to another practical tool, practical exercise that you can use. This is something I say all the time. I'm going to share my screen in a second. But for those of you who have children, nieces, nephews, when the child does something well, okay? So if they, I don't know, get an answer right or walk for the first time or, I don't know, do a good job, go for a wee in the potty for the first time, whatever it is, put in the chat, how do we respond? What do we do? What's our reaction? What do we do when children do something well? Praise, yes, Meryl, thank you. What else? We celebrate, yes, lovely, thank you. So we congratulate, lovely. We whoop them, yeah, we're like, woo, yes. Okay, so I'm going to say this sentence a couple of times. We tell everyone and we give them treats, yes, thank you. I'm going to say this sentence a couple of times because I want it to like get in there. I want it to really like go into our brains. What gets celebrated gets repeated. What gets celebrated gets repeated. We are the same now as we were when we were kids. We still want positive reinforcement. We still want to know we're doing a good job. We still want praise. The only difference now is we want it from ourselves as much as anybody else. So what I want you to start doing is weaving in tiny moments of celebration into your day, because you know what? It's all we have. Tiny little sprinkles, peppers of celebrations into your day. Now, this doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be huge at all. It can be tiny. It can be very literally finishing a task and just taking a moment and be like, good job, did it, crossing it off the list, feeling good. It can be, again, taking a moment to just like dance. It can be just saying to yourself, like, good job, I'm doing really well. I'm going to take it to the chat again because you're all really helping. So if you were to celebrate something in a small way, what would you do? What would you do if you were to celebrate yourself? Because we need this at the moment, because we're all showing up. Everything you shared at the beginning of the session is heavy and it's real. So one of the ways that can cut through some of this is just these light little celebrations. Thank you, Kat. A quick dance. These tiny little things that we can do. And I'll say it again, what gets celebrated gets repeated. If you want to repeat a behavior, if you want to do it again, humans, we respond well to positive reinforcement. Call my mom, I love that. We respond really well to positive reinforcement. If we know we get rewards, and these rewards can be teeny tiny, a big breath, exactly, just reward ourselves with these little things. Write this down in my journal. Smile and dance. Thank you, everybody. Tiny things, and we have to remember this, especially now when these bigger celebrations, these bigger like end of week celebrations, perhaps we don't have so much access to. Fist pumps. Yes, thank you everyone for sharing. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, so that's another tech. There's one more tech. That's another technique, and now I'm going to share one more. I'm just going to rattle through, try and make this really practical. One more technique that I want to share with you to try and make us feel good in these times when, frankly, it's hard, is there is one sentence that I often work with my clients with, and I say, okay, what would this mean for you? It's simple. It can be different every single day. And I'm going to say this now, and I want you to write in the chat what it means for you. What does win the morning mean for you? I want everybody, and it can be different every single day. It doesn't have to be the same every day. But take a moment now and think about tomorrow. What is winning the morning for you? There's lots of research that suggests if we can just win the morning, it makes it a lot easier for us to kind of happily get on with the rest of our day. Okay, so yoga, some exercise before work, feeling good when I start my day, shower and a coffee, not getting cross with the children. Lucy, rather you than me. Not getting up early, being ahead of the game. I love that language. Get out of bed when I want to, getting up with the alarm, making the bed, being productive, getting up by 8 a.m. and doing some exercise, meditate. Lovely, thank you. So not getting into social media scroll, huge, huge. Getting a head start before everybody else. So what I want you all to do now is take 4 minutes and write a list of all the different ways in which you can win the morning. So for you, it might be getting out of bed without looking at your mobile phone. It might be winning the morning for you was doing a bit of yoga. Winning the morning for you was just being able to spend half an hour getting the kids to do something or spending some time with them. It might be just doing a bit of exercise. It might be getting up at the time we said we'd get up and not do loads of snoozing. I did loads of snoozing this morning. It might be starting the day with a shower. Winning the morning might be really being able to just take a moment with your coffee, just sit and actually drink your coffee. So just have a think and maybe write out some ways in which, get pen to paper and think about for you, what is winning the morning? We only have to win the morning. And if we can win the morning, maybe, just maybe, who knows, no pressure, we might be able to win the next of the day. Concentrate on my goals and reduce phone use. Yes, lovely, thank you. So what I want everybody to do is, in big capital letters, what I want you to do is try, all we are going to do is everyone, the 58 people on this webinar, put yes in the chat for me if you can commit to trying, at least to whatever it looks like for you, to just win the morning tomorrow. That's it. Can we try and win the morning tomorrow? Yes, 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 fuck yes. We're going to try and win the morning tomorrow. Just the morning. Tiny. If you get out of bed tomorrow and you get straight out of bed without looking at your phone, you have won. You have won the morning. And then what we do after, yes, 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 thank you, thank you. And then what we do after we win the morning, based on what we've just learned, put in the chat, if you win the morning tomorrow, what do you do after that? Word begins with a C. Put in the chat for me, if you win the morning tomorrow, which you will, by the way, we celebrate. Yes, thank you. So we win the morning and then we celebrate. And that celebration is tiny. And I promise you, if you start the day with these tiny tweaks and make winning the morning for you easy, if winning the morning for you is making your bed when you get up and you do it like, I won. I have won the morning. The language we use is so important. So important. It has an impact on how we feel. It has an impact on our emotions. It has an impact on how we move throughout the day. So even just using the word win. So there's two things I want to say now. The first thing is allow some inconsistency. Gosh, we have to allow ourselves some inconsistency at the moment. Some days we're not going to win. That's okay. Let's focus on the ones we are. We're not robots. We're not the same every day. We have to allow some inconsistency. And I work in motivation a lot. As I've mentioned, probably 400 or 500 people a week. And what I have seen, the moment we allow that inconsistency, the moment we soften the edges of needing to be perfect and be on the whole time, the more likely it is that we actually end up doing it. So we have to allow just a little bit of inconsistency. So I want everyone tomorrow to try and win the morning. And then I want you to celebrate. And I also want us to think, I'm going to share my screen now. The language we use is so important. The language we use has such an impact on our day. So not everyone, but so many of us, I'm going to stop sharing my screen again because I want to see the chat. Sorry for flipping back and forth, but I want to be able to talk to you. Oh, Rebecca, I love this. When I say nail the morning, I often say this to myself. If I'm winning, awesome, amazing. I love that. Thank you. Whatever language works for you. Okay, so put a yes in the chat for me if, okay, hypothetical situation. We work together, you know, we are colleagues. Imagine that. And I ring you in the morning and I'm like, Kat, Tamsin, Marie, Danny, Sean, I ring you and I'm like, we've got a busy day today. A really, really busy day, lots going on, lots to do, busy day. Okay, so I ring you in the morning and I say that. Put in the chat, how does that make us feel? When we say to ourselves, when we wake up in the morning, we've got a really, really busy day, so much to do. Anxious, under pressure, anxious, stressed, pressure, stressed, overwhelmed, but also excited, overwhelmed, stressed, pressure, stressful. Thank you, everybody. Brace yourself. Harriet, I love that. It is, isn't it? It's like an almost like a physiological bracing. We like prepare ourselves for the day. We're like, brace. We tense. Our bodies tense. I did it today. I did it this morning. I felt myself doing it this morning. I was getting ready and I was like, busy day. And I could feel that swell, that very familiar swell of anxiety start on my stomach and raise up to my chest. We know it. I know we know it. Okay, so this is how it tends to make us feel. Now also, with lots of compassion, put yes in the chat if this is typically the thoughts we think when we start our day. If typically we get up in the morning and we're like, okay, busy day today. I've got a busy day. I've got to do this, and then I've got to do that, and then I've got to sort this, and then I've got that meeting, and I've got to do this, and actually I've got to speak to that client, and actually that's not a very yes. yes. Thank you, everybody. So this is just normal, commonplace stuff. But I like to use that as just a simple illustration that the language we use has an impact. So I'm going to share a framework with you now. You may have seen this before, you may be familiar with it, but you know what? We learn through repetition, so it doesn't matter. So the language we use impacts everything. So let me share this framework with you. I'm going to invite you to write this down. This is called the TFAR framework. I coach on this all the time. It's really valuable, really impactful. And the TFAR framework is very simply that our thoughts impact our feelings impact our actions, and our actions impact our results. So I don't know about you, but for me, certainly sometimes these two things get a bit mixed up. Sometimes I don't even necessarily know the thoughts that I'm thinking. I feel something. And again, I want to stress, these are tiny tweaks, like really, really tiny tweaks that I'm going to suggest you make to your day, so that it can help you just soften the edges. You know, we all need like as much as we can get at the moment, because we are busy, we are bored, we are demotivated, we are overwhelmed. It's okay. So now these are the times we need to try and learn about and use these tools more than ever. And so there's a few different ways to do this. The easiest and simplest way to do this is when you wake up in the morning. If you have the luxury to do so, I would invite you to, first thing in the morning, if you can, notepad, write down the ways in which you're going to nail the day, for example. If that's too much of a luxury, if the kids are running in, then what I'm going to invite you to do is, in the moment, when you first wake up, when you're like making your coffee, when you're standing at the coffee machine, what I want you to do is think some thoughts that will serve you. So let's come up with some together now. So generally, I want you to maybe wake up and think some things like, today is going to be a good day. Think some things like, I'm going to nail today. Think some things like, I've got a really rich day. I've got a very varied day. Think some things like, I'm going to connect with people. I'm going to get to connect with people in my business. We're going to have fun. We're going to play. We're going to laugh, whatever it is for you. And so what I want you to do, because again, like your words can be somebody else's breakthrough. That's why I really like this format. So we've made that intention tomorrow that you're going to win the morning. Want to hear all about it if you do, by the way. So what I want you to do now is I want you to put in chat for me a thought that you're going to think, just one. Now, we're not impacting our feelings at the moment. Remember, we're not impacting our feelings. We're just thinking, Rebecca, let's do this. I love that. Thank you. Give me one thought you're going to think in the morning. You've got this. Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to learn more today than I knew tomorrow. Oh, Sean, I felt that in my bones. Set a motivating password. I really like that. I'm going to be the best version of myself and win this day. Today is going to be a good day. I can get it done. Today is going to be a good day no matter what. I'm going to make today my bitch. Smile and enjoy this. I'm going to make steps to move forwards. I can handle anything today brings. Yes, give me some more. I'm going to read through these again because these are lovely. I'm going to read through all of these again. Thank you for sharing. Let's do this. You've got this. I'm going to learn more today than I knew tomorrow. I can get it done. Today is going to be a good day no matter what. I'm going to make today my bitch. Smile and enjoy this. I'm going to make steps to move forwards. I can handle anything today brings. I can deal with this. I'm going to get the hardest job out of the way first. Lovely. Thank you. Now, again, just to reiterate, we're not changing our emotions. It's too heavy. It's too hard. But I am going to invite you to tomorrow, as you wake up, I want you to be there making your coffee. I'm going to find something to celebrate. Yes. As you're making your coffee, as you're in the showers are a perfect time for this, Just be like, I'm going to do a good job today. I'm going to nail it. And all we have to do is just think these thoughts. There are two types of communicator. We typically fall into two camps. Some of us are think to speak. So some of us, and maybe you will identify this, some of us will have to process information, make sure we understand everything, make sure we've got everything clear in our minds before we speak. Others, like me, I am happy to speak to think. So I can articulate things, go, oh, this is just an idea, I haven't fully formed it yet. And verbally is how I process information. These two different camps, and generally you might know where you sit. One thing that's kind of sad and problematic is the corporate world has accidentally perceived those of us that are speak to think as somehow better because we're more capable of sharing our ideas. But it's not the case, because we're sharing sometimes unformulated thoughts. So the reason I shared that with you, if some of you will just want to say this aloud, I invite you to do that. When you're in the shower, just be like, I've got this, I'm going to nail it. I'm going to, whatever it is for you, I can deal with this, and just say it. And you'll find the more you say it, it might not every day, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be every day. If it's once this week, it's better than no times this week. It will start to just soften the edges of it. Some of you may want to think it. Does that resonate? Okay, so I'm going to share one last little tiny tweak with you that I want you to add on to your day. Tiny, 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 tiny tweak. I want you to, at the end of every day, before you close down your laptop, before you slump on the settee, before you make dinner, before whatever it is that you're doing, I want you to answer the question, what 3 things have I done well today? What 3 things have I done well today? I was teaching someone this earlier and they said to me, well, what if I haven't done 3 things well? That day doesn't exist. Every single day, there will be an abundance of things you've done well. All we need to do is just train ourselves to look at it, even on the shitty days, even on the days when it's riddled with mistakes, when we're fucking everything up, when we're not doing it right. There are always things we've done well. And it doesn't just have to be work stuff. Exactly. Doesn't just have to be work stuff. It can be anything. Because we're only one person. You're one animal. Your emotions are affected throughout work and your personal and your professional life. So let's experiment with this now. Put in the chat for me and then we're going to wrap. Put in the chat for me just one thing for now. Just one thing that you have done well today. Just one thing that you've done well. There will be loads. But I want you to just share with me one thing that you've done well. And I want everybody to try and start to develop the habit. One of my main areas is confidence. And so I want us to try and develop the habit. Confidence is a habit. That's all it is. So we've smashed a workout. We've turned up to this webinar. Yeah, thank you. End of the day, we're tired. So many people are, oh, too tired. I gritted that street on my lunch break, neighborly duties. I've turned up for this. Yes, you've shown up for yourself. That's huge. I spoke up in a meeting today and felt heard and helpful. Yes, I love that. A maths lesson with my eldest son. I sold loads of stuff on eBay. Oh, the admin. Yes. I managed to deliver the work my colleague has asked me to do. Won a work contract. Yes, Lucy, did the yoga I'd planned to do. Yes, you won the yoga. I sent an email I was dreading to send. Thank you, Sarah. Well done. We get those difficult things out of the way. I did a tough yoga class. I re-grouted the shower. Harriet, you're a queen. I ran out in the snow. Oh, that sounds lovely. I took a break away from the screen. Exactly, these tiny wins. Tamsin, I listened. What an incredible thing to have done well. I've done all my work. I was gentle to my son all day and I'm here. Oh, Karina, I felt that. Thank you. I managed to drink a hot drink. Lovely. Thank you. I'm here. Lovely. Thank you. Imagine. Thank you for sharing those with me. Shared valuable insights with my team. Thank you. Imagine if we spent our time thinking about these things. And the one thing I want to say and just acknowledge is humans, we have something called the negativity bias, right? Basically, what this means is we are genetically predisposed to focus on the negative. Cool, thanks, brain. But you can see, right, when humans first evolved, early stages of human evolution, when we're like walking through the plains of the savannah and we see a tiger, we see that tiger once, but then we are built to see that tiger in any other similar time, only now it isn't a tiger. It's Tim and it counts, or it's a client, or it's a colleague, or it's a boss, or it's a pandemic, or it's homeschooling, or whatever it is. We're built to focus on the things we're not doing well. Your brain is uniquely calculated to focus, is uniquely built to calculate risks. We're so good at thinking about risks. We're less good at calculating opportunity. And this is just what we're working with. There's a neuroscientist called Joseph Ledoux at Harvard. He's done so much research on this. Very, very well documented, the negativity bias. And so you can bring this to life. If I said to you, like, Joe, Karina, Tamsin, Tina, tell me all of the amazing things about yourself, we'd be like, and we'd stutter, and maybe we'd say a few things. And then if I said, you know, Louise, Sarah, Lucy, tell me all of the amazing things about your friends. So much easier to think of this stuff for other people than it is for ourselves. And so I just want to end this webinar with one statement. And that is, when we think about the negativity bias, you know, when we think about that, you have a blind spot to your own brilliance. You really do. You really do. It's hard for us to see it. We're not built that way. We're built to make sure we stay small so we don't open ourselves up to too much judgment or ridicule. We're built to make sure we keep reprimanding ourselves, so we keep doing a good job. We're conditioned to make sure that we keep disciplining ourselves, because that's how we make sure that we're good. That's how we make sure we're a good boy or a good girl. Maybe some of this is resonating with you, and this is all okay. This has served you. But what it does mean is it's really hard for us to see how exceptional we are. It's really hard for us to see that. And so this last exercise I'm sharing of 3 things every day that you've done well, we can just start to slowly soften the edges. I've got a question from Ike, I think. Can you say the name of the person who studied the negativity bias again? I absolutely can. Joseph Ledoux. But if you just Google negativity bias, there is heaps and heaps of research on it. It's really well documented, lots of fascinating studies. So I just wanted to end with that sentiment. I'm just going to do a quick wrap up of some techniques. And at the beginning of the session, I said, you only need one. You only need one. If you do more than one, that's amazing. Pick and choose, but make sure you have all of these. So the first thing that I shared, let me get my slides up so I can remember myself. Okay, so the first thing I shared is, remember, in order to let something go, we first have to hold it. Got to take a minute to acknowledge everything that we're going through. So thank you for sharing with me at the beginning of the webinar. It's really, really important. And we can't force or will positive emotion. So we have to focus on those actions. So create that menu. Know for you, have it in a spreadsheet, have it written in front of you, the things that energize you, the things that uplift you. So it's right there. So your brain isn't scrambling when we're in primal panic to try and figure out the things that you can do that will help you. I'm going to say this sentence. I want you to complete the sentence for me in the chat. What gets celebrated gets what? Finish the sentence for me in the chat. What gets celebrated gets repeated. Yes. What gets celebrated gets repeated perfectly. Thank you. Celebrate yourself. We have to, especially now. Tiny things, tiny little things. Start giving yourself the love and celebration that you do your friends, to your family. The next thing, win the morning, even if it's just tomorrow, even if it's just tomorrow. Win the morning for me tomorrow. And I would love, do you know what I would love is, I'll put my Twitter handle in here and then the push one as well. I would love for those of you that win the morning, if you let me know on the internet, that would delight me. Then I would win the morning if some of you were like, I won the morning today. That would make me feel really good. So win the morning. And I want you to acknowledge that the language you use impacts everything. So we don't have to make these big changes. We don't have to make these big changes, but tiny things, just tiny little things. I'm going to nail it. I'm going to do really well today. Try and think those thoughts. And again, we only have to do one or two of these. And then finally, perhaps the most important is, end every day, if you can, with either writing down, thinking, verbalizing, just taking to a moment just to acknowledge all of the things that you're doing well. And there will be a fucking shit ton. It's just hard for us to see. All right, lovely. Thank you, everybody. I will hang about just in case anybody has any thoughts or questions, but thank you for being here. But most importantly, thank you for showing up for yourself late on a cold, wintry day if you're in the UK. It's very cool that you were here. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. If anyone has any questions, I am here to answer them. Otherwise, go win the morning, evening, whatever.